Welcome to Becoming a Cook. I'm Charlie Wetzel. Today I want to teach you how to make pesto. It's a wonderful, wonderful sauce to make when basil's in season, and you can do it on just about any kind of pasta. Before we get started, I want to go and pick my basil. About 10 years ago, Stephanie and I moved out to the country because I had these dreams of being a gentleman farmer. And I realized there's really no farmer in me at all. We barely could keep a garden going, and maybe 1 out of 3 things thrived. Thank goodness we didn't buy animals because we would have killed them. So you can see we're growing basil in pots, and I really like the way this works out because Stephanie takes care of it and all I have to do is harvest it. So I'm going to harvest what we need for this batch of pesto. I'm trying to leave shoots and some leaves where it leaves out because I want this to come back again. And as long as I keep cutting this before it goes to seed, it should keep bushing out. Okay, that should do it. I've washed my basil. Even though we grew it in pots, you can have bugs on it, so it's a good idea to wash it. The first thing I'm going to do is just pick these leaves off the stems. The stems are too tough, and I want all the leaves I can get. If you want to make this dish, you're going to need to have a food processor. I think it's possible to make it without one. Pesto means pounded, so I guess if you were in Italy before electricity, they made pesto with a mortar and pestle. I don't know how to do that. And even if I did, I don't think I'd want to do it that way. I will say this, as you pick basil, it's actually possible to bruise it. So even though I'm working fast and pulling these leaves off, you don't want to be too rough with them because they discolor. When you make pesto, you start with the garlic. The amount that you're going to use is going to depend on the amount of basil you have. I like pesto garlicky, so I'm trying to decide if I want to do 3. What the heck, we'll do 4 cloves of garlic. You want to pulse this. The reason you do that is you want to break this into small pieces and make it consistent. Wish that were a little bit finer, but this is a new food processor, so we'll see how this goes. To that, I want to add walnuts. Now, a traditional pesto uses pine nuts, but you'll find that pine nuts cost about 10 times as much as walnuts. Walnuts are almost as good, so that's what I use. What you want this to look like is a course meal. So that looks pretty good. Next in is our basil. And again, we pulse. That's looking pretty good. Some of these leaves are not pulverized. I'm going to give them another little bit of a whirl after scraping this down, and I'm also seeing that my walnuts are sticking in the corners of this food processor. As I said, this is a new food processor that I'm giving a try here for my new kitchen. If it doesn't work the way I want, I'll bring my old one out of retirement. Next thing I'm going to do is add oil. For this, I'm going to leave this on. Sorry about the noise. What I want this to do is to make a thick paste. And I'm sorry to say that this food processor is not doing a very good job. All right, so the consistency of this, you can see this is a little bit sticky, but we're going to add Parmesan to this to finish it off. When you do a pesto, you can use Parmesan, you can use Romano. I'm going to use both because they both impart slightly different flavors. I find Romano to be a little bit sharper and a little bit saltier. It brings a really nice flavor. I'm going to go ahead and transfer this from this bowl into a mixing bowl. I usually do this in the food processor, but as I said, this food processor is not doing as well as my old one, so you're getting to experience growing pains with me as I learn new things in my kitchen. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this cheese in. And other than salt, this is everything for a batch of pesto. And I do the salt last simply because the cheeses have so much salt in them that I don't want to overdo it. Just a pinch. Don't want it to be too salty. Now that this is ready, I'm going to go ahead and cover it with some saran wrap, and I'm going to get my pasta going. My pasta's cooked. I always try to save a little bit of pasta water. Now I'm ready to assemble this. So I covered up my pesto. If you don't cover it, it tends to turn from a bright green to an olive drab. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pasta in a bowl, noisily. Go ahead and put the pesto in with the pasta, and then toss it. So I really want to incorporate it. If I'm having trouble getting it to incorporate, that's what I use the pasta water for. So I just want this to mix in well. And pesto is so strong that you don't really need really large amounts of it to make a sauce good. So I'm going to give this just a little bit of this pasta water to thin this out a little bit. I also baked some sausages, and I just pop it into a 375-degree oven in a regular pan for 15 minutes, and then I flip them, and then I give them another 15 minutes, and they're ready to go. Another alternative you can use is spaghetti squash. Stephanie and I are going to have ours with spaghetti squash today. But for our kids, they want the real thing. So this is spaghetti rigatoni with homemade pesto with a hot Italian sausage on the side.